Hey friends, I'm Andrew Carruthers, Education Director for Samvia, here to share with you a technique on how to create a natural beachy wave using a 1.5-inch curling iron and wand. Let's get after it. Now we want to work organized, so our first thing that we're going to do is take a little bit of a section. We're going to take a tail comb. This is our signature series tail comb in white because she's got a darker level of hair, so that's going to help with contrast on the hair. And we're just going to part off the hair that lives more back in the back hairline. Within that, we'll take a horizontal section, which will just be the nape area itself. So pretty much just the low occipital, about 1.5 inches, 2 inches above the hairline. This will change depending on the density of your guest's hair. If they've got really thick hair, you may want to make this a slightly smaller section. If they've got really fine hair, you may want to even take this just slightly higher so that you make sure you actually get some curls in there. Now, you can see all that hair is dropped down. We're going to make sure that we take some iron shape 11. This is going to be great for heat protection and some hold. This is one of our favorite Redken products for doing any kind of heat styling, just because it helps to protect the hair and it leaves a great texture in the hair. We're not going to saturate it, just a nice little dusting. Now we're going to take the Artist Series Marcel and wand. Now here's what's kind of cool is we're going to start with it in wand. So we're going to click this little detach button and we're just going to slide the handle right off of the iron. That's going to put it into wand mode, and we'll also lock the handle so that the handle doesn't want to turn. This underneath, especially if you're working on shorter hair, if you put too much curl, too much wave into this, it's going to look funky and it's going to bunch up underneath. So this one we're going to be very, very gentle. We're just going to put a little bit of texture. We're going to work in vertical sections. We're gonna comb those through with our hands, or you can grab your comb and give it a quick comb through. We'll leave it at fairly low elevation and just give it really just about one full wrap, not even, maybe 3/4 of a wrap around the iron, mainly through the mid strands. We're gonna leave those ends out and drop that down. We'll go to the next section. We'll alternate the direction of the wave. So we'll take that back the opposite way, and again, mainly focusing on the mid strand of the hair. Then, next section, don't mess with those pieces. Make sure you let them cool properly before you start messing with them. Next section, wrap it the opposite direction. And we'll let that just drop down. We'll leave all that alone. We'll just take the iron, just so you have a stand, just gently place it back into the spoon handle, and that's going to give you that little piece that you can set it down. Now we'll take the next section. The next section we are going to take all the way around the head. So if you want to subsection it, that's totally fine. I'm just going to go ahead and take everything in one big piece, which is going to be easier for me, just to keep it in control. The other thing too is if you separate things too much, you can end up leaving lines in the hair. So we're just going to take that next section. That is going to be pretty much at the vertical transition of the head, just where the head shape changes. And we'll take everything that's left and just pin it up, section it off on the top of the head. We're just going to give it a light twist. I am going to let it fall on her face because she's not a real client, but if I'm doing this on a real client, I would drape it to one side, and then when I get to that side, then go ahead and drape it to the opposite side. Make sure you're not making your guests mad. So you can see that's about a 2-inch wide section. Before we start again, we'll take the Redken Iron Shape 11. Make sure you're doing this at home, giving a little bit of a mist of some type of heat protectant. Hopefully that heat protectant, like the Iron Shape 11, will have a touch of hold. We believe that you should be layering your product. So starting with a little bit of hold product puts that first layer into the hair so that when you come back and spray it after you're finished, that's not the only hold product you're getting into the hair. You want to build that hold throughout the process. Now we already have the iron in wand mode, so we're gonna stick with that for now. We're gonna start on the front hairline, and the section that we're going to take is diagonal. Now notice that diagonal, it's a diagonal forward section. The reason we're gonna take these on a diagonal is because we're gonna mix techniques, and as we mix techniques, that diagonal section is gonna allow those techniques to float over top of each other. The first technique we're gonna use is just a simple wands technique, and we're just gonna take and we're gonna wrap the hair flat on the wand. We don't wanna twist the hair. We wanna keep it nice and flat to the hair. And again, look, we're leaving those ends out. If you wanna really start to make this feel natural, you can start to move the wand. We call this the 1.5 wrap, where you're just going 1.5 around the wand and then you just move it back and forth, or you can stay still if you like. The little bit of movement's just gonna add a more natural feel because it's going to stretch the curl and make that one fall differently. So that we don't have to bounce back and forth between techniques, we're going to skip the next section. And then we'll take our next diagonal section. So we're gonna leave this section out. We'll take that next diagonal forward section there. And this one, we'll just continue in the same direction, because this section that's left out in between, that's gonna get a different technique to it, and that's gonna go in the opposite direction, so we contrast directions. So again, just wrap the hair flat to the head, and then you can kind of violin if you want to keep it a little more natural, or if you just want to keep it flat on the wand, that's great. The 1.5 inch is going to give us a very loose pattern. If we go in with a 1 inch, we're mostly likely going to want to do a little bit of violining, which is going to help to stretch that curl out. You'll notice because we made this wand an extra inch longer, you have no problem wrapping that longer hair down the entire length of the barrel. So from here, I'm just gonna continue to take those diagonal sections. On the opposite side, we'll let those sections go more diagonal forward on the opposite side for balance, but it's gonna be the exact same thing, probably 2 to 3 more sections with this exact same technique. All right, we finished everything with the wand technique, leaving out those sections in between. On the left-hand side, we took diagonal forward sections again and wrapped the hair away from the face just for consistency side to side. So now let's go into the Marcel technique. So what we gotta do is pick up the spoon again, and there's these little notches that make it really easy to see here. You just line up those notches and then slide it back into place. It's gonna get a nice commanding click. And then we need to unlock the handle. So this slides up and it now makes it so that the handle turns, and we now are back into Marcel mode. So because we curled away from the face with the wands technique, we're gonna curl towards the face with the Marcel technique. So now you've learned how to curl with your curling wand. Now we're gonna show you more of a curling iron technique. So that we get 2 different results, we're going to go for a completely different technique. This one we call the wrap and twist technique. As we place the iron in, we don't want to just clamp down. If we just clamp down, we're going to leave a crease in the hair. So initially, we're going to just drape it in and gently allow the hair to float through the iron, just to kind of prime and to warm the hair. As we place the iron in, go in more at a diagonal with the iron, which will leave the base of the hair more natural. Wrap it around the barrel and then untwist it. Wrap it around the barrel and untwist it. Wrap it around the barrel and untwist it. Have a gentle touch as you're doing this so that it stays kind of open. We've noticed if you're too tough with your tension on this, it'll wrap it into an itty bitty little tiny spiral and it doesn't get the same open effect. So again, with this one, we'll do the same thing. Barrel comes in underneath, one gentle slide through just to prime and warm the hair. As you place the iron in, start at a diagonal, wrap to the barrel and untwist. Wrap, twist, wrap, twist. Gentle, gentle, and let that cool. Remember that hair is continuing to cool it's continuing to form as it cools. That's one of the things that gets in our salon guests' way a lot of times. They try these techniques, and as soon as they drop it down out of the iron, they start raking their hands through it and just destroy the look. We're gonna step back to the other side because now our technique changes just slightly. Because on this side, remember, we worked the iron away from the head, away from the face when we were using the wand. Now we want to work these sections towards the face on this side as well, just so we have balance and movement. So, same thing though, iron comes in, just gives it one quick touch to prime the hair and warm it. Iron comes in at a diagonal, wrap, and then twist it. Wrap it to the iron, twist it, wrap, twist. And again, just real gentle touch and pull that iron through the ends to smooth and polish the ends. You'll see that nice loose wave forming. Now, I know that some of you might be thinking, well, shouldn't we put this same wave on this side as we do on this side? Because you can tell on this side we're ending with a different form. It's up to you. If you feel like you need that balance, then that's fine. But part of the decision-making process with this is that we want things to feel really random and really lived in. So we're not gonna be too worried about it. So we're gonna continue with the exact same technique, prime the hair, enter in a diagonal, wrap, twist, wrap, twist, wrap, twist. You can tell this is my harder side because it definitely doesn't look as smooth, does it? My motion looks a little choppy, but we're getting the same result. So now the great thing is we still have the top, and on the top, then we're still gonna have some things that drape over top of this. So if we feel like we need that balance, we've got the top. So I'm gonna go ahead and let the top down. All right, now that we have the top drop down, we have a decision to make. What do we want these first pieces to look like on the front? Take this just as opinion, it's just my personal opinion. I like the very loose open wave that I get from a 1.5 wrap. So I'm gonna pop the spoon off of the Marcelin wand. We'll lock the handle into wand position. You can see it's not gonna turn anymore. And the very first thing that we're gonna do, actually the very first thing we're gonna do, is we're gonna set that back down because I didn't put product in here. And product is not an option, it's a necessity. So we'll just give her a very light dusting of Iron Shape 11 throughout that top surface. We recommend a light dusting, even though the Iron Shape 11 doesn't get really crispy on you. You don't want to overdo the product because it's not going to be beneficial to the end result either. So just a nice gentle touch of that product and then comb that through your section. Be careful not to pick up the hair from underneath. Now, we'll go ahead and grab that wand again. We'll work in our diagonal forward sections. Remember the idea of the diagonal forward section isn't necessarily about movement, it's more about having these things mixed together. If we went through in just vertical sections, the curl is going to just sit next to each other. But because of that diagonal section, this will sit slightly on top of the next thing that we do. So we're in wand mode. We're going to place this pretty low. Think about where you want that first bit of wave to sit. A lot of times it's right in that cheekbone to bring out the cheekbone. So we'll put that first bit of wave there in the cheekbone and then just wrap it another half time around the wand. And we're just gonna let that sit. Give the ends a little touch there so they're not too stick straight. And we'll just let that sit. Just to make sure that we do have symmetry on this top. I know that we said that it wasn't essential, but right on the very top, we do want some symmetry here with how the curl pattern's looking. So we will make sure that we get more of that 1.5 wrap on the wand as our first section on the front. You might have noticed I just touched the iron. Luckily it was a quick one. All right, so right there's where I want that first curl to sit. And just wrap that, let it sit. Just kiss those ends onto the iron just for a moment so they're not too stick straight. Let that fall down. So that's gonna look really pretty on the face. Now from here, it's the exact same process. We're gonna take those similar size sections and be really cautious not to pick up your hair from underneath because we don't want to re-iron that stuff. So diagonal section, leave that out for your Marcel technique, the wrap and twist. And then this next section is going to be the 1.5 wrap on the wand. So you've seen me done this before, so I'm just gonna go through, take my sections and finish this off for you. Once you finish the wand technique, now we're going to, again, grab the spoon. We're gonna line up those two little dots and just click it right together. Then go back, unlock the handle so that we can now spin it. Now we'll go into our wrap and twist technique. You can see you've got the pieces that are left out in between. So we'll wrap these towards the face. So enter in, just generate a little bit of heat on those pieces. Diagonal, twist, wrap, twist, wrap, twist, and then slide through those ends to straighten out those ends. One thing again, remember to keep your touch gentle and soft. I got a little tight and clamped onto that a bit so you can see it made that really tight together. So just be soft with your touch. I'm gonna continue around the head everywhere that I did not use the wand technique. I'm going to continue on with the wrap and twist technique, moving the hair towards the head, towards the face. And then we'll show you how this all mixes together. Once you're completely finished with both techniques, make sure you give the hair plenty of time to cool. Now, if this is something that someone's wearing it out for something important, you would actually want to leave this cool as long as you possibly can. It can take up to 30 minutes for the bonds to completely reform. So if you have the time, allow that hair to cool as long as possible and the curls will stay so much longer. Let's get in and let's rough this up and separate that out because it's not finished until we start putting our hands through. Once everything's all cooled off, now you get to do the fun part, which is to pull everything apart. Now notice that we're being very, very gentle with our hands. So when you start to pull these things apart, just remember that you can always make it more disrupted, but once you pull it apart too much, it's really hard to get everything to collect back together. So be very gentle with it at first. We will recommend working with your hands from the inside out, then working into the top more. Once it's at a place that you like it and you're starting to see that wave and texture develop and just be loose like you like it, then we're gonna grab some finishing product. We're gonna grab the Redken Triple Dry 15. We're going to keep the flow of the product moving down the hair strand. If we work inside out, we're going to start to create some frizz on the hair. So just working that product down the hair strand is going to keep the frizziness at bay, but just help to give it some definition. Great thing with this spray is it's going to keep a very natural finish on it, almost just slightly matte finish with it. So we love it for these beachy waves. So now you know how to create those really natural beachy looking waves using a 1.5 inch curling iron and wand. To get the disruption and the movement, we want to take those diagonal sections so the two different techniques don't just sit next to each other, they flow into each other in a really seamless way. Plan out your approach and work in one technique at a time, and that's gonna really help you save time from switching back and forth and back and forth. So we hope you enjoyed it. Let us know what you think about the techniques in the comments. We'd love to hear from you guys. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Andrew Carruthers, Education Director for Sam Villa.